Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tropics Talk. Gulf Coast meteorologist Jim Dickey back with you here with a new storm to track out there in the Atlantic, at least from the last time we talked. That is Tropical Storm Jerry, storm number 10 for 2025, out there swirling in the eastern side of the basin, in the south-central tropical Atlantic, a little past the midway point between the Caribbean and Africa. Beyond Jerry, see the wide sort of line of clouds stretching from the North Atlantic across the Central Atlantic back to the Greater Antilles. That marks the frontal boundary, which is going to be a player in Jerry as it swirls towards the Caribbean. And then plenty of thunderstorm activity into the southwest Gulf, south of Mexico as well. That area we'll be watching as we go through the next day or two. Let's begin with Jerry. The 8 o'clock update from the Hurricane Center. Winds sustained at 50 miles per hour. Looked a little ragged overnight, but looks to be making another run at trying to organize itself to sort of develop this sort of well-defined core that it would need if it is going to become a hurricane, as is forecast going forward. I think one takeaway here, this is moving at a very quick pace, 23 miles per hour. That is a fast forward movement for a tropical system. And generally speaking, when you have a fast-moving system, it makes it a little harder for it to try to get its feet under it. So that would likely hinder development as we go through the near term. This continue to move quickly off to the west and northwest at that fast 20-25 mile per hour clip here, approaching the northeastern side of the Caribbean by the time we get to the weekend. There's the cone forecast from the Hurricane Center. By early Friday morning, that is a Category 1 hurricane. Let me zoom in here. Very close call for the northeastern Leeward Islands. Likely staying just east with the center, but this is why there are tropical storm watches out for the leewards here this morning. Certainly tropical storm conditions, meaning 40-plus mile per hour winds, not out of the question. Then that swirls off to the north and northeast like so many storms have before it. This turns out into the open Atlantic and will come nowhere close to the United States or Florida. Yeah, this stays out over the open waters of the Atlantic, likely even stays east of Bermuda. And the forecast in this case is pretty clear-cut. In fact, let me go ahead and dive in here, do some Madden-style telestrations for you. We have broad high pressure out over the Atlantic, the Bermuda Azores high, fairly far eastern positioning to it. That sort of allows this to ride the edge of that high out to the east. Along with that, we have our front dip there across the Central Atlantic. That gives this sort of that window to move off to the north and east. That is exactly the movement this is expected to take. Again, sometimes, when we talk about the longer range with the steering forecast for a tropical system, we talk about lots of uncertainty and, the models still kind of all over the place. Not the case with this one. The models are locked in, and they have been all along, even before this came together. Generally north of the Caribbean, then turns to the due north, then to the northeast, riding the fringes of that high pressure area. Yeah, this comes nowhere close to the U.S. or Florida. No impacts to land beyond what we see in the Leeward Islands tomorrow night on into Friday as that swirls on by. Now, only other area we're watching for development, you can barely even make out the highlighted areas under all the cloud cover here from the Hurricane Center. It's basically one envelope of thunderstorm activity that stretches across southern Mexico on either side into the eastern Pacific, into the southwest Gulf. This area south of Mexico, high chance for development here, likely a hurricane in the offing that'll sort of parallel the coast of Mexico. But on the Atlantic side, on the Gulf side, we have this cluster of thunderstorms that simply does not have much time. If this were going to sit here for a couple of days, I think we'd be talking a tropical storm forming up. Rather, if this does anything, it becomes a tropical depression, a short-lived tropical depression prior to moving onshore in Mexico tonight into tomorrow, and stays well to the south of the U.S. anyway, so no U.S. impacts, no Florida impacts from that one, but certainly a big rainmaker for parts of Mexico going through the next 48 hours or so before that fizzles out. Beyond that, as we go into the longer range, this is next week. One area we'll be watching, as history tells us to watch, is the western side of the Caribbean. There are some hints that perhaps something could try to spin up here. I would note, though, with the front that's going to move into Florida this weekend and dive all the way down to the Keys and the Straits, I think that sort of puts the guards up. I don't see anything coming north into the Gulf, and that sort of speaks to this anyway. This is from the European forecast model. You're not seeing any members showing something into the Gulf. If something were to try to form here, I think it would go westward towards the Yucatan, towards Central America. But just something we'll be watching as we go into the longer range. No immediate threats out there. When and if another storm forms, I don't think we're necessarily done just yet. The Caribbean certainly staying open for business as we go through the rest of October. If and when the next name forms, the next name on the list would be Karen. Hey, but as for now, no threats to Florida, so all good news for us locally in the tropics. Anything changes, we'll of course let you know here at Gulf Coast Weather. We'll be tracking anything and everything out there for you the rest of the way as well. Until next time, Gulf Coast meteorologist Jim Dickey. Have a great